Okay, g'day, Stephen. How you going?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks so much for coming on to the Backyard Ultra podcast.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
So one thing that's obvious, Stephen, is when I watch your videos on your YouTube channel is how passionate you are about running. So before we talk about Suffolk Backyard Ultra, just wondering, how did you find your love of running? How did it all begin?
Um, Parkrun, actually. So, just after the birth of my second child, we went to visit some friends who we were with in maternity class, and I said, "Oh, where's Kenny?" And Claire, the partner, said, "Oh, he's just coming back from a run." I said, "Oh, okay." So when he came back, I said, "Oh, what have you been doing?" He said, "Parkrun." I went, "What's Parkrun?" He went, "Well, it's this 5K run every Saturday you can do." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, in Brighton." So I said, "Oh, well, that'll be something really good to just keep me fit every week. I could do that. That'd be great." So I started doing Parkrun. And as you may well know, running is a very slippery slope. Um, so yeah, once I'd started Parkrun, then the drive was on to go a little bit further and a little bit longer, and it snowballed from there really. So yeah, Parkrun is to blame.
Yeah, very good. Have you kept count of how many park runs you've done?
I have absolutely. I've had a little bit of a lull, so I went through a period of time where I didn't do very many park runs at all. I'm currently on 238, 39, 38. So very shortly, I'll be doing a video series of my ten park run countdown to 250 for my 250 vest.
Oh, awesome. Sounds good. So it looks like you've been creating content for a pretty long time. I think I read somewhere you posted or you made your first video in 2010. You look like, I mean, you are a natural at what you do. So do you have a background in working in the media as a journalist or anything like that?
No, but I do have a background kind of performing. I've been in bands for many years, so I was in pop bands and rock bands from teenage years onwards, and had a little bit of success, and was on the telly a bit, and did interviews and stuff, and then filmed videos for the band and stuff. So and I did a bit of filming and video editing and things before that. So I had a little bit of a background in performance and a little bit of a background in video editing before I started running.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And is Film My Run, is that your full-time gig now, or is it on top of something else?
I'd say running is my full time gig.
Yeah,
So I get paid for running, and that comes in various different revenue streams. So the main revenue stream that I have really is Zwift,
yeah,
which they pay me to do running content on a treadmill on Zwift, which I do every week. Then my YouTube channel brings in the next amount of revenue stream. And then it's other gigs like the one we're going to do this weekend, which is running the social media for the Backyard Ultra in Suffolk. Until recently, I was the live stream coordinator and social media for the Arc of Attrition run in Cornwall, but that's now been taken over by UTMB. So I doubt we'll have that job next year.
right.
Uh, so yeah, similar things like that. So other little jobs around running, I get paid for as well.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so I mean, I first came across you last year while I was following Suffolk Backyard Ultra, and you were doing the social media updates there, and it was such great coverage and such a great race. And it's really good having that coverage because most of the time, most of these races, they've just got live timing, and you don't really know what's going on. But yeah, like I mean, you were able to make it so exciting, especially towards the end. What are some of your memories that stand out to you about last year's race?
Um, Last year's race was interesting in many ways because it didn't finish how we expected it to finish. We knew that it was going to go on a long time because we had some really big backyard runners in there. But the person that I expected to go on the longest, John Stocker, former world record holder, crashed out. And it ended up being Henrik Buri and Oriol from Spain who kind of fought it out to the end. And Oriol, I think, eventually got a Spanish record and certainly broke the UK record last year at Suffolk. Whether so and that this year they are all back with the addition of some others who are probably determined to make it a real go this time. So last year, I think, probably was a bit of a warm up for this year. And of course, we had Biggs in the middle of that anyway. So a few people were kind of preparing for the big one over in the States. So this year, we've got quite a few people who were at Biggs. About 8 runners who were at Biggs, I think. Or we were due to have 10, but I think a couple have dropped out.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's last year was good. What did we get to last year? 82 yards,
yeah,
I think. So this year, I'm expecting it to go beyond 82. I think.
Yeah. I do have a few of the runners written down. Like as you mentioned, Hendrik Buri's going to be back, and this will be his first backyard ultra since Biggs last year, which was a heartbreaking. And
I just can't believe it. I mean, and he's the thing is, it's not his first time doing something a bit daft, really, and he's got to learn. He's got to be on it, and I think he has. I mean, he's such a nice guy. Yeah. He's arguably the nicest guy in the backyard ultra scene. He's so pleasant, so polite, so kind, and always thinking about other people. Even when he stopped last year, his reason for stopping was that he didn't want to put everybody else at risk having to come and rescue him if he collapsed in the woods. He said it wouldn't be fair on everyone else. And yeah, so at Biggs, for those who don't know, Henrik left camp without his tracker on his ankle. And went back to ask if he could put it on and start the loop again. And of course, Laz said, "No, sorry, you're out." And that was just, and he could have gone far. I mean, I don't think he would have challenged for the win. Eeyore and Lewis are ridiculously strong guys, but he would have got a lot further than he did. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably would have at least run a PB.
Oh yeah, and I think he'll do that again this year at Suffolk. I mean, he had that also. I personally, I didn't expect him to do 81 yards last year, so I'd be delighted if he did that again. He may well get a PB again. Whether he is there at the end, I don't know. He surprised me last year, so he could surprise me again.
Yeah. And one of the runners who's running this year who didn't last year, which strengthens the field, is Matthew Blackburn. He's going to be there.
And I think Matt's got a bit of a point to prove because he wasn't there last year. He didn't do as well in Biggs as he would have liked, I don't think. I think he's the one who probably has the most untapped potential so far. I think he went about 3 or 4 years ago when he and John Stocker broke the world record and got it to 81 yards. Of course, it's been broken multiple times since then. But when it was the world record, nobody knew what Matt could do, and I don't think Matt knew what he could do.
Yeah.
So I think that 81 yards was amazing to him. So and he hasn't gone further since. So I think he's got a big one in him.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, sure. He'll be hungry.
Sure. He will definitely be I think he wants to beat John Stocker.
Right.
I think he wants to him and Henrik are very good friends. He'll want to support Henrik, and I think his ideal situation would be for him and Henrik to be the final two and for them to battle it out together.
Yeah. Claire Banworth, she's one of the funnest runners to watch.
Amazing. What a runner she is.
Yeah.
One day, Claire will do something on the international stage that will absolutely shake the world, I think. Because she is a phenomenal runner. I was going to say she's not fast. She's not slow. I mean, she's not slow, but yeah, she isn't a speed runner. But we're in the right conditions at the right time, in some race or other somewhere, she's going to pull out some extraordinary results. So last year at Suffolk, she got to 61-ish yards, which was the French record. And I believe it still is. I don't think it's been broken. So not only female but male overall record. Claire has the French overall backyard ultra record, set at Biggs last year. I imagine she'll be wanting to go and break that again. When you talk to her, she's not that bothered about competition. It's very, she just wants to run and enjoy herself, and just go as far for as long as she possibly can. However, if there's just her and one other woman remaining, she may push herself on to try and make sure that because last year when she got to 61 and she broke the French record, she said, right, that's it, I'm done. I'm finishing. But if there was another woman running, I think she might say, okay, I'll carry on and see if we can be the first woman. To be fair though, on a good day, there's no reason why she couldn't challenge the men as well.
Yeah.
She stopped last year because she wanted to, not because she had to. She made the choice to stop, and if she had that a bit more drive and determination to go on, she could go on. So she had a bit of an injury in her foot last year as well, which I think was niggling her, and anyone who's followed Claire Banworth's running career knows that she races 100-mile races almost every week. I mean, she's out there racing ridiculous mountain races and 400-kilometer events and 200-kilometer events every week, 3-4 a month.
The
amount of time and the amount of energy she spends doing races. So she had this foot injury last year, and she was worried that would impact future races coming up. So that's partly why she stopped a bit early. So if she's not injured, she may well be able to keep going beyond 61 and break the French record again, and maybe challenge the men a bit, win the women's race, maybe challenge the men a bit.
Yeah. One of the strongest women in the race as well is Karen Nicol, who was the previous UK female record holder. She's coming back, and I hear she wants her record back. Yeah,
so I don't know anything about Karen. She's not been at any of the Suffolk events. I don't know what her previous history is, but she'll definitely want to be fighting Claire for the win. She'll definitely want to get her record. So she's just another one to add to the mix, but I don't know enough about her to kind of comment really. So I shouldn't say too much if I don't know too much about her.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's going to be the first backyard she's run in a while. She may have been injured. I'm not too sure though.
Where did she break the original record? Do you know? I mean, I could look it up actually.
Yeah, it might have. I was going to say it might have been Rasselbach, but I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, it'd be great to have a big female field anyway.
Yeah.
We're always looking to try and balance the numbers between men and female runners. And it would be fantastic one year to have a woman right into that last three, four runners. I mean, Claire was in the last, I think she was in the last five last year.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, if we can get some, at least a couple of female runners beyond 60, that would be amazing.
Yeah. John Stocker's back. He's one of the toughest backyarders out there.
Yeah. So John's interesting. Many years ago, John, we kind of thought was invincible.
Right.
John would just keep going and nothing would stop him. And his mantra was always, I'll always do one more yard than the next person. So you say, how far are you going to go, John? He'll go, I'll go as far as everyone else and then just do one more. That's what he always said. And to be fair to him, that's what he always did. And in his other races other than backyard, he would do, he's famous for the Thames Ring 250 race, which he just, grind out. And so until recently, he was somebody who we just thought was unbeatable and invincible, and we couldn't wait to see him on the international stage. Then, of course, we had the UK Championships. So this was in between the Suffolk Backyard Ultra and Biggs. We had these UK Championships, and John got to 8 yards, and suddenly, I think he was not very well, or he had some breathing issues or something, and he just couldn't run, and he collapsed and ducked out at about 8 yards, which was a shock to everyone. And then we get to last year's backyard, and of course, I'm thinking, well, it's going to be Antonio. I can't ever say his first name.
Yeah.
Antonoli Sauro Oriel.
Yeah.
Versus John Stocker as the last two. That was my prediction. And of course, we get into the last four, and John at about 73 yards is in the woods, thinking he's in the kitchen,
right,
looking for the stove and the fridge, and completely gone.
Yeah.
Head gone. No idea where he is, what he's doing. We had to go and rescue him. We had to go and guide him out of the woods. Then he realizes, and he's in tears, can't believe it. Thinks he's embarrassed everybody. He thinks he's embarrassed himself, and he's let everybody down. Didn't want to go through the finish gantry. Wanted to hide in his tent for a little while. So that was that. And then he went to Biggs, and I don't remember where he got to at Biggs, but I know that he wasn't he didn't do as well as he wanted to at Biggs either. Ducked out for him, I would say relatively early at Biggs. So John Stocker has been excuse me. So John Stocker has been the world record holder and seemingly invincible in the UK until the last 2 years, when a couple of things have just knocked him back. So he's on for revenge as well.
Yeah.
He will want to prove that he is still the man in the UK.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting against Matt Blackburn again, because they have a bit of a rivalry. They're friends, but they're not best mates.
Right.
They have a bit of a thing. He'll want to show that the last couple of times that he's fallen short were just blips, and that he can get it right again. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if he goes right to the final two.
Yeah. He knows how to run through pain. I mean, you captured some footage on last year's race where I think Lindley, the race director, he was helping him with his shoe. And John Stocker, he was absolutely like wincing in agony as as the shoe was being adjusted on his foot. So he knows how to run through pain.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he has been pulled out of many a race by the race director because he refused to stop.
Wow.
So it has to be something particularly serious for him to pull out.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about what happened at Biggs actually. I don't know why he finished at Biggs, whether it was heat stroke or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, certainly the issue last year, he just didn't know where he was. That there's no point, there's no option but to pull him out. So he will keep going if his mind is still there. He'll keep going as long as he possibly can, through all sorts of injury. Yeah, that was funny last year. The shoe, because Lindley just cut away a bit of the shoe that was just irritating him on the run. And that seemed to work. But then, of course, then his head went immediately after that, so it didn't make any difference.
And Oriel's back to defend his crown as well.
Oriel's an amazing guy, and again another super nice guy. Such a lovely guy. Yeah, we know Oriel I know Oriel from many, many years ago. He took part in now what was that race called? It's no longer around now. Do you know, it's just gone out of my head. It was a 650-mile race along an old trail in the UK.
Yeah.
And for the life of me now, I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, he won this 650-mile race about, was it 8 years ago or something? And I couldn't believe it. He was so lovely and on the finish line, having run for all those days, like 6 or 7 days through the countryside of the UK, and hit the finish line with a big smile on his face, and and then came back and ran Suffolk Backyard Ultra last year, and again did it with such joy, and was always concerned about the other runners. Again, he came to me quietly and said, "I really think Henrik is suffering." He didn't know where he was on the last loop. He sat down on a bench and he didn't know what he was doing. But he wasn't telling him to stop. He wasn't saying, I think you need to pull him out. He was saying, just look after him because he's suffering. So super nice guy, but super determined. Was there with his dad last year. His dad crewed him. And last year was the winner of the Suffolk Backyard Ultra, broke the British record of 81 yards by 1 to 82 yards before Henrik stopped. And he'll be right there again. I can't see any reason why really the four of them and anyone else who turns up who I don't know about, because there are a couple of guys in there who were at Biggs who I don't know anything about as well. So I can't see any reason why the four of them, John Stocker, Matt Blackburn, Henrik, and Oriel, can't get well beyond 80 yards this year.
Yeah. And when you're talking about the other runners in the race, where we are at that time of year where there's only a few months till October and the Satellite World Champs are on, everyone's going to be looking at their at-large list, and they know what they need to get on. So there are going to be a lot of runners there who are going to be aiming to get on that at-large list too.
Yeah, I think, and given the fact that certainly our UK runners didn't perform quite as well at bigs as they wanted to, um, and we didn't, the UK team didn't perform quite as well as we thought we might because we lost John Stocker quite early at the last championships. Yeah, everyone will have an eye on getting a big number so that they make sure they're on that list.
Yeah.
Both for the championships and for bigs next year. Yeah.
So I mean, it looks like a beautiful course, and I imagine it is a flat course. I mean, it's conducive to high totals. How would you describe it?
It's a very easily runnable, soft forest trail. So it's not all through the forest. It's very soft, hard packed mud, dirt, a little bit of sand in some places. But when you walk through a forest and the ground is kind of mud, but there's a little bit of a soft give to it. It's kind of like that. So you've got a little bit of a spring. It's not bad on your joints. It's a little tiny bit undulating, but not anything really significant. There is one road section of about 200 meters on tarmac. There are a couple of sections where there is some uneven grass towards the end, about the last 1,000 meters, last 500 meters. There's a little bit of bobbly grass that you just need to be careful on tired legs. If you're not careful, you could roll your ankle. Other than that, it is the most runnable, smooth, easy course. As I say, most of it is under forest cover, so you're not going to get burned by the sun. There is a section at the beginning, from the very beginning, for the first mile probably, is open to the sunlight, along a river, very pretty, and then you go into the forest. I'd say the first mile is gradually uphill, but nothing. You don't think you're climbing a hill.
Yeah.
And if you ask, are there any hills? Probably what you'd say there's one hill of any significance, and it's probably 50 feet,
Right.
less than that probably, and not very steep.
Yeah. You did mention the park bench before, and it sounds like last year that the park bench was probably the biggest obstacle for the runners last year when they were getting tired, like having to avoid the temptation of sitting down on it.
There are a couple of benches along the route which make it easy to take some time out. Yeah. And especially so one of the benches is about 400 meters after the start, and what you'll find is, excuse me, what you'll find is that a runner will come in absolutely shattered after busting their ass to get in under the time, and then everybody will cajole them to get out for the next loop, so they'll have about 2 minutes turnaround time. They grab some food, turn them around, straight back out again. And so what they do is they get out of sight of camp, get up to that bench, and then have a sit down and rest for 10 minutes on the bench. And if they're too, and some people then use that as thinking time.
Yeah.
And occasionally some people have then thought, I'm not going on, and they turn around and they come back.
Right.
So yeah, that particular bench is a killer bench that people do need to.
Well, when I had Hendrik on the podcast, I asked him about the bench, and he actually told me he actually set his timer on his phone to make sure he didn't fall asleep on it or stay on it for too long.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, what a lot of people do, and I do this in ultras, is you're so tired, but you know that if you fall asleep, you are just gonna fall asleep. And what I regularly do is I set a timer on my iPhone and put it right by my ear, put my head down on the table at an aid station, and sleep for 5 minutes, and then wake up when the alarm goes off, and then go off again. A lot of ultra runners do that, just to make sure that they aren't just sitting there for hours.
Yeah, and even a small micro nap. I mean, I haven't reached a stage where I've done it in a backyard ultra, but the runners who do, they say it actually does make a big difference, just a couple minutes nap.
Yeah, absolutely. On a backyard, on a normal race, you can decide how long you want to sleep for, because there's no, as long as you're within the cutoff for the next aid station or whatever it might be, the next checkpoint, really it's up to you how long you sleep. On the backyard, you haven't got that time. You can't say, oh, I'm going to have a 20-minute nap here, because you won't make it back to the camp in time. So there is literally the most you can sleep for is, if you're fast on the loop, the most you can sleep for is probably 10 minutes. Back at camp. So and most people, when you get into the big numbers, you're not getting back into camp with that much time anyway. You're getting back into camp after 50 minutes. You've got to sleep for 2 minutes and then have food and do whatever else. So I think it becomes important to get whatever sleep you can, and even if you're just closing your eyes for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, that will help. Yeah, it does help.
Yeah. You did mention before about expecting a high total in the 80s, and for the last 3 years we've had runners break 100. Well, we've had we've had 3 runners break 100 so far. The Belgians, Phil Gore at Dead Cow Gully, and Biggs last year. And I think it's something that we're going to start seeing maybe once or twice a year. This is definitely a race where it could happen, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when we thought 100 was the unattainable dream of backyard, and when would we ever see 100? And then all of a sudden they do it in Belgium, and then suddenly it's on, and everyone can do 100. So I think some people will be disappointed if we don't hit 100 this year at Biggs. I think there will be some disappointment in the air if that doesn't happen. Whether we do, I don't know. It can be quite warm, although the weather actually isn't set to be that good this year at Suffolk. It's set to be a bit wet. So that might be beneficial, actually, in terms of keeping people awake, not draining their energy too much. But Suffolk is known for being quite hot and humid. So that has drained people. In fact, the year they broke the world record 4 years ago was absolutely scorching. How they got to 81 yards in that scorching temperature for the UK. I mean, I know you're in Australia, so it's different, but yeah. I have to admit, I'm a little bit skeptical, and I don't really know why. I would love to see 100 yards and more. I'd love to see them break the world record, but I'm not entirely sure whether they've got 100 in them. Because I don't know. I'd love it. I'd love it if they did. Maybe Oriel does. Maybe Matt Blackburn does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go for my prediction is Oriel and Matt Blackburn are the last two, and they get over 100.
Okay.
Let's say that.
Okay, cool. That last year, Oriel and Hendrik were both obviously suffering from lack of sleep when they finished, and I imagine you didn't get much sleep either. So, like, what's your sleep strategy going to look like?
Well, it's interesting you should say that. So last year, um, I had just been away in Scotland, and I'd been volunteering at an event called the Cape Wrath Ultra, which involves runners going from Fort William in Scotland all the way to the northwest tip of Scotland at Cape Wrath, a lighthouse at Cape Wrath. And what we do is as a volunteer, my job was to dismantle all the campsite and reassemble it at the next campsite. And it was a lot of hard work, and it meant I got very little sleep. I was so when I went to the Backyard Ultra, I was already quite sleep deprived,
Right.
having had almost 2 weeks of this event. And then, of course, I had 4 days of trying to stay awake all the time, and I simply couldn't do it. And towards the last 2 days, I had to say, look, I've got to go to bed. I've got to go and sleep. And thankfully, I've got my wife who's able to just be up for a few hours in the night to capture footage and anything interesting that happens in the middle of the night. And then last year, a few days after that, my wife and I were both running an event called the South Downs Way 100, which is a 100-mile race down here in the UK. And it was I was pacing my wife basically through that. So we did that, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're running along, and my wife is like steaming along, going really well. And I said, Vic, can I just lie down? I just need to go to sleep for 10 minutes, please. Yeah. She said, well, I need to go on. I need to go on. You lie down and catch me up. So I had a little sleep because I was so tired from the Cape Wrath Ultra volunteering and the Backyard Ultra, going into doing a 100-mile race a few days later. I just had to. So I went to sleep for 10 minutes on the trail, and then luckily I was able to catch her up. So this year is exactly the same scenario, except this year I was running the Cape Wrath Ultra. So I was a runner for the Cape Wrath Ultra this year, which I finished, and it was great. But again, I've come into it. I've had no sleep. I'm so tired. But we knew this beforehand. So I've arranged with my wife that she will be the official social media from about 1 a.m. to 5 p.m. each night.
Yeah.
So I can get some sleep. Yeah. Because a week after that, I am then running the South Downs Way 100 again.
Oh.
So I can't be falling asleep on the trail. So that's how so it was a long drawn out way of telling you that I am managing my sleep, and that's how we're managing it this year.
Yeah, very good. So you've been at Backyard Ultras where you've seen runners go for days and a close-up view. So I imagine that you would have an idea of what do you think sets the very best Backyard Ultra runners apart from the rest?
Well, that is something that I think I see in people like Eeyore and Harvey Lewis, that I haven't. I'm not sure I've yet quite seen in the UK runners. It's not just a mental determination, but it's a physical. It's a physical determination as well. It's like they're physically strong, and they're mental rocks, and it takes I don't know what it'd take to stop them.
Yeah.
Eeyore won the Barkley Marathons this year. Just an incredible performance. Mind you, Harvey Lewis ducked out quite early at the Barclays this year, which is interesting. So I don't know, but yeah, in backyards, certainly there are one or two runners in the world who just seem to be able to knock them out back to back, one after another. and it's something to do with a combined physical and mental ability to check out and not think about what you're doing. And I don't also, and maybe there's something physiological as well about lack of sleep, that some people are able to just manage better on less sleep. I don't know, but it does worry me a bit that John Stocker had that incident last year where he kind of went a bit crazy at 70 odd loops. But then again, a few years before, at 81, he was still fine and ready to go on. So maybe that was just a blip. Oriel seemed absolutely fine at 82 yards last year. He could have gone on. Matt Blackburn, Matt again, I've seen Matt go do Lally and lose it. So whether that happens again or whether he can just find something in himself to just keep moving forward, I don't know. I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but there's some combination of physical ability, mental toughness, physiological or genetic build, which means that sleep deprivation is less of an issue, and mental determination just pushes them on to the next yard.
Yeah. You may have seen the documentary that was made about, it's called Breaking 100, when Phil Gore broke the record. And he was assisted by Sam Harvey. And Harvey Lewis was at that race, and his race ended in the early 90s because of sleep deprivation. He was hallucinating so badly and he just couldn't go any further. So it's interesting he was able to, and for that reason, I had my doubts that he would win Biggs. But then he came out and turned around at Biggs and we know what he did there.
Yeah. I have seen the documentary, but the thing is, I've seen so many documentaries. They'll blur into one. I can't remember which one is which. And that often happens with because I've done quite a few Suffolk Backyard Ultras now, and I quite often have to think to make sure I delineate between which one is which over the years. But so I guess it could happen to anyone, can't it? You know, on the wrong day at the wrong time, you know, depending on maybe what you've eaten or what the temperature is, what the weather's like, what your headspace is at the time. You know, how's it been the last 6 months? How have you been feeling? Have you had a great training block? You know, is everything at home settled and in life? You know, all that stuff plays on your mind and can affect who you are when you turn up on the start line that day. And it can affect your ability to push on to the next yard. And who knows what will happen this year at Suffolk, and what the guys will be able to pull out. Maybe they'll all suffer, and we'll, you know, we won't even get past 80, or maybe a couple of them will just be absolutely on it and have the perfect race, and we'll see 105. You know, what is the record at the moment?
108. Harvey Lewis did 108 at Biggs.
108 was it? Okay, well maybe all right. 110 then. Maybe we'll see 110. You know. 108 is big, isn't it? 108 is a long way.
Yeah, 4.5. I
mean, that could be Thursday by the time if they can do that. That's Thursday, Sunday to Thursday, Saturday to Thursday.
Yeah, wow. It's amazing. It is amazing. Like 70, even 48 is amazing. Really, like
yeah. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because, you know, 100. I talk about running 100 miles, you know, and people go, "Wow, that's incredible!" Yeah, 100 miles. Yeah, what did you do in 24 hours? 24 hours on your feet, 100 miles. Yeah. That's incredible, you know. But then, if you talk about that in backyard ultra terms, that's like a baby performance, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's like a starter performance.
Yeah.
So wow, yeah, 48, and then anything beyond, like 2 days of running.
Yeah.
40, and 48 would win most backyards around the world, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt. It would get you on nearly all countries back at large list for
Yeah,
their world champs team.
yeah.
Um, I know you don't mind talking a little bit of running politics, and I think many people every now and then on Facebook, on the Backyard Ultra page, and especially around the time of Bigs, there was a lot of talking about the qualifying model to making it to Bigs, saying it's heavily favoured towards male runners. And at Bigs last year, there were only 4 female runners. So I was wondering, like, if you have an opinion about that, and would you be happy to leave the qualifying process as it is, or would you like to see some adjustments?
I did notice. So I haven't been involved in the debate, to be honest, and I haven't really looked at it in any great detail. But I did certainly notice the lack of female entrants. I know Lindley at Suffolk basically is saying, look, it's a level playing field, and if you want to qualify, you meet the standard. And if women don't meet the standard, then they don't meet the standard, and that's just it.
Mm.
And there's a big argument, isn't there, at the moment about this theory that the longer we go running, the more likely it is that women are able to beat men longer distances, because, well, for a variety of reasons. Data has shown that the gap in performance between men and women reduces the longer the distance. So Bigs should be perfect for that. But clearly, whatever the data shows in the scientific analysis, the reality is that men are still stronger than women, and there weren't enough female representations at Bigs this year. I would be happy to see a change in the criteria, if for no other reason other than to allow more women the chance to be at Bigs. Now that would mean that there would be women at Bigs with qualifying times or yards that you might look at and go, well, that's not really good enough to be at Bigs. But I think there's more to it. It's that there is more about wanting to show the wider world, show women and young girls in the wider world that you can do these things. You can come to these events and perform. You can race ultras. You can race 100-mile races. This is not a male only world. I think it's important that we get that message out, because there's still a lack of women in the sport. It's growing, and it's growing all the time, and it's getting better and better. And there are some great initiatives out there to try and improve the participation of women in the sport. And Jasmine did something fantastic for women in the sport at Barclay this year. So it's getting better. Maybe it needs a helping hand. Maybe I'm not quite as dogmatic as some people, and I would probably relax things a little bit to allow more women to take part. But I know what Laz is saying, and I know what Lindley at Suffolk is saying. I understand that, and I guess it is in some ways up to women to step up to the plate as well, and try harder and put in those performances, because I know they can do it. But maybe from a political point of view, and maybe from a social media point of view, to see more women out there would be a good thing to spread the word about women in ultra running.
Yeah. I have thought about it a little bit, and I thought a possible thing to do would be to have bigs the same model to qualify at the moment, but also have a 25, the male at-large list of 25 runners plus a female at-large list of 25 runners, as well as the 50 golden ticket winners. It means that there'd be 100 runners, which a lot of people say that would be too many at bigs, but I think that's the best idea that I can come up with anyway.
Have you put it forward to anyone?
Well, maybe a few people hear this podcast and it might, we'll see. But I've told a few people, but this is the first time I've mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah. Interesting idea. It's just a tough one, isn't it? I don't know because I totally get that. You know, Laz wants the absolute world's best at bigs. You know, and I think part of him would feel a little kind of stick in the neck, you know, if he was just including 20 odd women who'd done 30 odd yards, you know, just because. Again, there is only one winner, isn't there? There can only be one winner. You can't have a male winner and a female winner.
Yeah.
That bigs just doesn't, backyard doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Although we have celebrated the last female out there before, you know, and it does happen, but there's still a DNF.
Yeah. I guess the argument against that is because you're going to give 50 golden ticket winners a spot, the 50th golden ticket winner could be from a country that won with 22 yards.
Yeah, that is true as well. So I suppose, you're giving places to. So that's based on geography, isn't it? You're giving places in bigs to people just based on the country that they're from, not based on how good they are at backyard ultra.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, and I haven't thought about it enough to argue with you about what it should be.
Yeah, sure. Now, I'm sure you've watched the live stream of bigs last year, and it was really captivating stuff. Like, there were some awesome moments captured there. And there are some mainstream sports like golf and cricket that go for days. Now, I was wondering if you think that backyard ultras have the potential to go mainstream and have a really professional coverage happening.
Well, you see this at UTMB, don't you? UTMB have arguably the best live stream coverage of any ultra races in the world, and so they should, because they are the biggest ultra race in the world, and it's very professional. There's a lot of money in it, and it is getting that wider audience. Starting to get a wider audience, but it's not mainstream.
Yeah,
I think backyard has a long way to go to start getting anywhere near where UTMB is, and UTMB is still not being broadcast on any major channels. I think in France, it is, but outside of France, it's not at all. We need to get the thing is money, isn't it? That you need money to do these things, and backyard ultras are not flush with cash. So we're providing a live stream this year from Suffolk for the first time ever. So I'll be doing my hourly updates, but I'll also be managing a hopefully continuous live stream from the start of Suffolk Backyard Ultra to the end, from the start-finish line. I don't know whether it has the potential to go mainstream. It's got the potential to grow bigger than it already has.
Yeah.
Um, and I think people will watch a live stream that, they'll dip in and out of a live stream. Certainly when you look at the live streams, the numbers go massively up on the hour when they know people are coming in and they're about to leave again. Then it dips down again by the half hour. Yeah, I think a long way to go. A long way to go, and a lot of investment, a lot of money. Bigger sponsors need to come in on it for it to be seen as in anywhere near mainstream or certainly on the level that UTMB live stream has got to.
Yeah, sure. Now, from what I could find out about you, is that you haven't actually run a backyard ultra yet. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. Yeah. I don't want to do one. Don't make me do one. Please. I just
want to. I thought you'd be keen. You'd be able to film it.
Right. So my thing is going to extraordinary places, seeing beautiful scenery and amazing views, and having a journey.
Yeah.
And traveling, through places that I've never seen before, and seeing new things, and exploring and having an adventure, and within that then covering a distance in a time.
Yeah.
The backyard for me, deep down, even though I work at one and I'm well entrenched in the business of backyard, just sounds like an absolute nightmare. Round and round the same patch of ground for hours on end, over and over and over again. Yeah. I cannot think of anything more depressing.
Right.
That said, I'm not against the idea of doing one. And if one day I find one that interests me, or one if I find some time somewhere that I think, okay, let's do that, I would do one. My wife's done one.
Right.
My wife did Suffolk a couple of years ago.
Right.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're obviously a good runner.
Have you done one?
I've done 10.
10. Okay. What's the first you've got?
34 is my best.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah, I really want to go into the 40s, because I've gone into the 30s 4 times now. So I've got to make that. I've got to make that step up into the 40s, and I'm doing one in 3 weeks. So that's my
look.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so Suffolk Backyard Ultra begins at midday on Saturday. That's local time, your time. So people need to convert their own time zone. So it's going to be 9 p.m. for me. But how are people going to be able to follow for live updates and watch the live stream?
Okay, so on Facebook, there will be the Challenge Running Facebook page, where we will be posting regular video and photo updates from the start of the race right through to the end. So at least every hour or so, depending. Sometimes not a lot goes on in the wee hours, so we might skip the odd hour or two, but generally every hour or so we will do a video update and some photos from the course. But on YouTube, it's going to be on my YouTube channel. So the Film My Run YouTube channel, we will have a live feed from the start finish line from camp.
Yeah.
Which as long as Starlink holds out, as long as Elon Musk provides us with his services, then we will be live 24 hours a day for the entire duration from the campsite with sound. It's not going to be like UTMB. There's not going to be all presenters and interviews and everything. It's just going to be relatively static. But live feed, so you can see the runners coming in and out on the Film My Run YouTube channel.
Yep, perfect. I'm sure that you know this already, but I actually learnt the hard way because I did the live stream for Dead Cow Gully about a month ago. I learnt the hard way that the live stream has to be in less than 12-hour chunks, otherwise it won't save to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, no, I've learned this, and I mean, it depends what Lindley wants really. So what I know that they did on Biggs is that they cut the live stream every 6 hours. So every 6 hours they cut it and they started it again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check with the race director whether he wants a totally continuous live stream, in which case it will not save to YouTube. So it wouldn't be available after the event. Or whether he wants me to do it like that and cut it every so often and then restart it. He may want that, but we haven't yet decided what's going to happen.
Yeah, sure. And I imagine you'll still have your handheld footage that you'll probably cut together.
Yeah, I'll be doing. Yeah, I'll be doing that. So I just hold my phone. Just use my phone, and every hour when they come across the line, I'll interview a couple of people, film what's going on, film them going back out again. Once or twice, I'll go into the woods and get some film with them in on the run itself. Go around the campsite, interview a few people in the campsite. When it starts, Biggs is very busy. There's lots of people there for the first 24 hours, and so it's very entertaining. So I'll be doing all that as usual that I've done for the past 3 or 4 years.
Great, awesome. Well, look, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great race. Thank all the best for you.
Thanks, Pedro.
Yeah. And it's great chatting with you as well. It's a big thrill, actually.
Lovely to meet you. Yeah. Well, so next year are you going to come over here and do Suffolk?
Well, it's I want to. I've got a friend over there, Dom Halbert, who's running at it.
I know Dom. Yeah.
He's been on this podcast a couple of times as well. So, he's told me if I do come, he'll crew for me. So,
we'd love to see you. Yeah, it'd be fantastic.
I would love to. Yeah, it's definitely on my wish list of races I want to do. Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah, but yeah, great to meet you, Stephen. And
thank you.
We'll be in touch. I'll be watching on the weekend.
Thanks. Take care.
Thanks.
Cheers, Pedro.
Bye. If you've enjoyed this podcast, it would be awesome if you could share, comment, like, subscribe, all of that. If you've got any feedback, shoot me a message. Hope you have a great day. See ya.